Trenton was a different time back in 1776. Many locations were different and, well, there wasn't really a lot of them. It was only a small town in New Jersey. Although surprisingly, many locations in Trenton in 1776 still happen to be around. For starters, there's the old barracks building found around here. It is still present and is now used as a museum where they showcase the barracks of the soldiers who resided in Trenton. While granted it had a bit of a paint job done to keep itself stable and not collapse, it is still pretty similar to how it used to be. Far up towards the most northern part of Trenton at the time, even though now it's far more centered and surrounded by many other locations, it is where according to the map, Washington set his cannon. Now though, it is a monument, more specifically the Trenton Battle Monument, where a statue's been erected of George Washington, pointing out south towards the site of his victory over the Hessian garrison. There were an assortment of churches that were around in 1776, and many of them do in fact still remain. The St. Michael's Church, the Cathedral of St. Mary, Presbyterian Church. Unfortunately, the Methodist Church that used to reside in Trenton is no longer in the same area. However, it has relocated slightly, though its cemetery still remains adjacent to the public library. There's also the Friends Church, now known as the Trenton Meeting of Friends, where back in the day, it belonged to a group of Quakers, which were a Christian group that were specifically known for their pacifism throughout the Revolutionary War. And no, not the Quaker Oats guy. Just south of Sunpink Creek was the Douglas House, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be underneath a Sunpink Creek. It seems to just be a courthouse now. Upon further research, it seems that the Douglas House is still around. However, it seems the Douglas House is north of the creek. That can mean one of two things. Either this initial map from 1776 wasn't as accurate as we may think, or maybe they scooped it off the ground and moved it over, or because they just really needed to make that courthouse. Even further south is Bloomsbury Court, which, as we may know it today as, the William Trent House. William Trent was the founder of Trenton. It is now the longest standing house in Trenton, and is now used as a museum showcasing some history revolving around William Trent. Unfortunately, both the Blazing Star Tavern and the Abraham Hunt House, at least according to the map, don't seem to be around anymore. It seems they were replaced with a modicum of different buildings and sorts. Labeled on the map is the Surrender Spot, which happened by the Apple Orchard. You would imagine that some grand statue would be erected to commemorate such an important event in the Revolutionary War, and you would be incorrect. It's a parking lot now. Speaking of parking lots, where Ford Rev Rosenberg died, something important enough to be included on the map, there's also a parking lot. Actually, there's two parking lots here. I guess he was more important, so they added a second parking lot. It also seems that the courthouse and jail was relocated or flat out removed, for it's no longer in that same section in Trenton. This map from 1776 is only a small tidbit of the history of Trenton. There's a lot more you can learn from more than just a simple map and cross-comparing the two. While its geography is slightly different compared to Google of today, compared to the map makers of 250 years ago, it's still nice to know that much of Trenton's history is still here and alive. While some of it has perished within the years of construction, many of it still remains. But if you're curious to know more about some of the odd history of Trenton, whether that be artifacts or other such interesting documents, that can be found in the Trenton Public Library at Trentoniana. It's worth a visit. After all, it's where this very map can be found.